Dr.
Thank you, Brian. Buenas tardes. ¿Cómo
Buenas
están?
tardes.
Bien.
Muy bien, excelente. Muchas gracias por venir. Thank you for coming. This is an honor to be hosting the Teatro Chicana here at the downtown campus at Pima Community College. And the downtown campus means a lot to me too because I taught here as a faculty member for 10 years. I taught Spanish. Go figure. And so on behalf of the college and the provost's office, I'd like to welcome you for a special treat tonight. I can give them a round of applause for their efforts. And the students that helped out with the reception and everything and all the other preparations, raise your hands. Where are you? Yay! So it's a pleasure to be welcoming you to a night with Teatro Chicana, Una Noche con Teatro Chicana. And we're going to be seeing some, I believe, some excerpts of their newest collection of pieces. And this group was founded in San Diego, and it's a female Mexican-American group of Chicanas who are going to be performing and sharing their collective voice, their testimonies of where they've been, where they come from, and where we as Chicanos and Chicanas are going. And I'd like to end with a quote from Gloria Anzaldua's Borderlands, La Frontera. Maybe some of you are familiar with this. Yes. So, nosotros los Chicanos straddle the borderlands. On one side of us, we are constantly exposed to the Spanish of the Mexicans. On the other side, we hear the Anglos incessant clamoring so that we forget our language. Among ourselves, we don't say nosotros los americanos, o nosotros los españoles, o nosotros los hispanos. We say nosotros los mexicanos. By mexicanos, we do not mean citizens of Mexico. We do not mean a national identity, but a racial one. We distinguish between mexicanos del otro lado and mexicanos de este lado. Deep in our hearts, we believe that being Mexican has nothing to do with which country one lives in. Being Mexican is a state of soul, not one of mind, not one of citizenship. So that's just a quote from Gloria Anzaldua's book. So with that, I'd like to welcome our Teatro Chicana and you, and thank you very much, and adelante. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. Thank you so much for being here with us. We hope to do you justice. I just want to give you a little introduction about Teatro de las Chicanas. We chose the term Chicana because it was a political statement to us. In our teatro, we were, as all of us, mostly, I think, our mix, we had Cuban, Black, Anglo, Chinese. We know we were all mixed. We're not like, I don't know what it is to be a pure Mexican, but the indigenous and the Spanish surely were more dominant. And we came together as young women in a university setting. In our day, when we started, I started in 1968, and we had just the civil rights movement had just finished, so it had a very big impact on the social justice that was going on in the air at that time. We had the Students for a Democratic Society, we had MECHA, we had Black Berets, Brown Berets, the Young Lords in Chicago and New York, and all of these were just blooming everywhere in the communities, and then in the school systems, in the universities, we had all of these Maya, Mayo, and so many other groups coming together. One of the other things that really influenced us was the peace movement. We were against the Vietnam War, and very clearly, a lot of us were seeing our brothers, our uncles, our fathers coming back or not coming back, either in body bags or they were mangled, where they had lost limbs, where they were very mentally unstable. And we got to see this in our own familias. I mean, we bury our people too. So when we saw the marcha for peace, we said, right on. We were there right in the front lines too, because we didn't want war. We didn't want our brothers and our family to get hurt anymore. Plus, when they were coming back, there was no jobs. They were mistreated. They were not paid attention to. And that was very hurtful to all of us. And we wanted a war. The war that we liked was a war on poverty. That was more suitable to us because of President Johnson. Some of us were able to get into the higher education. And that's a kind of a war on poverty that we war on hunger, instead of a war against, in Vietnam, what were we doing over there? We were questioning that. So that was in our day. And also on television, we saw every day body bags being brought in. And so the media was not as controlled as it is today. So we marched for peace. The other factor that really influenced us was the United Farm Workers. Since a lot of us in the Teatro already had this very strong cultural Mexican background, a lot of us also knew that what it was to work in the fields, for very minimum wages and the working conditions. Sometimes there was no water for us to drink. The bathrooms, you had to go out allá en los matorrales. So it was like when they showed up on the scene, Dolores Huerta and Cesar Chavez, and they asked us to join their picket lines, we were more than willing to do our part as students in universities, and we also held fundraisers and tried to help as much as we could. We even went up to Delano on special trips to help out with the strikes that were going on, the pickets. So the United Farm Workers had a big influence on us. The other factor that really had also a very big impact was the women's liberation that was going on at that time. At San Diego State, it was the first department for women's studies that was ever recognized and funded. So we had a very strong image of women's liberation. And even though we were not exactly in the women's liberation movement, we hailed our Anglo sisters because we also identified completely with them as women. And so all of these things made us open to not only just to better ourselves as a people with Chicanos, but we also recognized and respected the rights of the Afro-Americans, the Asian, the students for a democratic society. So all, we were very open. We weren't nationalists. And so this is one of the things that also made us not be very well accepted within the Chicano movement, because in the Chicano movement you had people that just wanted to fight for Chicano rights, and we as a theater, as women, opted to recognize and respect the struggle of all peoples. We also opted to recognize the right of people to choose whom they loved, whether that it was the same gender or different gender, or if that gender was purple, green, or blue. We accepted the fact that you had the right to choose, and we respected that. So these in our day also we had a very strong basis of Teatro Campesino. In San Francisco, called the San Francisco Mine Troupe developed, and it was a very political group that had a very big influence on us. And Luis Valdez actually belonged to the San Francisco Mine Troupe, and then he went to Delano and started all of these teatros that were just about every university had a teatro. So we started Teatro Mestizo at San Diego State, and then we started noticing as women that most of the roles for women were as mothers, nuns, prostitutes, wives. And we thought, I think we can have different kinds of roles where women are more powerful symbols of, for the younger generations, for our sisters and our families. So that's how, the Teatro de las Chicanas started. And, from all of these, we learned so much from everything. And so we were in a classroom setting, but so much was learned outside the classroom setting at the same time in that time. And we are actually just a street theater, and I don't mean just. What I mean is that all we had was very little. pero we had a lot of guts, okay? And so we did the best we could with what we had. And so we are very still much teatro, street teatro. Not that we don't appreciate Shakespeare or fancy props and beautiful stage settings, but we used what we had, and all we had was like a lot of will, and we were very excited to participate and do our best when we presented to little community groups and organizations and universities, other students in other universities. So we got around, and today we're going to do a little acto that actually is one of our newest little actos that we have brought up, and this is in recognition of Halloween, Dia de los Muertos, and the ending of October and the beginning of November. You have a very thick mist, like fog, and this is a time when our dead come. We think they come, they transport themselves across this fog, and we greet them with music, food, flowers, candles, and this is to honor the dead. At the same time that we honor the dead, we question how we are doing, analyze our actions, and how better can we make ourselves be for our society. So it's a very powerful time, and we just did a little acto in relation to Halloween, Dia de los Muertos, and sewing.
Watch out, you better not cry, you better be good, I'm telling you why. La muerte's coming for you all. Guess what? This broad over here was texting and driving. So now I gotta tell her the news. Hey Susan, I have to tell you that your time here on earth has been terminated, and you are to follow me.
Oh no, you can't take me. I have things to do. I'm not ready to go with you. I have trips to Paris. I have lots of parties to go to.
I'm sorry, but it's finito for you. Completo. You have to follow me.
My father is very, very rich, and he can give you lots of money so I can stay here.
I'm sorry, honey child, but where you and I are going, money is of no use. Oh, I have you on my list too. You're supposed to come with me.
¿Y quién es usted, señora?
Yo soy la muerte, joven. Y su tiempo ya se terminó aquí, así es que usted me tiene que seguir junto con esta chica. Vámonos.
Sí, yes. Take him. Look at the way he's dressed. And he doesn't even speak English. Oh my God.
My name is Juan, and I do speak English.
What I want the both of you to understand is vamonos.
Wait. Can I take the keys to my mansion and the keys to my Ferrari?
No.
That's not fair.
¿Me puedo llevar la memoria de mi Santa Madre?
Yes, you can take the memory of your blessed mother.
What? He can take the silly memory of his mother? And I cannot take my mink coat nor my jewels?
No. Déjala que se los lleve, son cosas materiales. Llévese.
Why are you feeling sorry for her? Why do you want her to take those things?
Porque yo tengo memorias muy bonitas que me puedo llevar conmigo.
Oh, you have a lot of more beautiful memories and she only has things. Okay, so what memories are you talking about? Other memories.
Yo salvé a un niño para que no fuera atropellado por un camión. Yo fui miembro de un sindicato y peleé por mis derechos y los derechos de los demás trabajadores. Yo hice campaña por un candidato que nosotros creíamos que era justo y yo...
Oh, shut up.
Wait a minute. These are not things. He saved a child from getting run over by a truck. He was a union member and fought for better union wages and working conditions. He got his elected official into office, and you're telling him to shut up?
He's a big show-off. Well, I almost joined the March to Stop Pollution.
No, pues no sé, que se lleve esa memoria porque casi hizo algo para salvar a los animalitos de la madre tierra, casi.
Okay, she thought about saving the children and the animals of the world, but she only thought about it. She didn't do anything.
Please, please, let me take something to my dad.
Déjenla.
Well, if you must die with something, then die with dignity. Come on, let's go.
Pobrecita, pobrecita.
Her chapter on her story.
Okay. And one of the things I want to say about street theater before I start reading is that street theater is a popular form in Latin America to put out a message of protest, of struggle. So it's very common, sometimes you call it teatro carpa or street theater. It's a way that we put out the message about change. I'm going to be reading a piece from my chapter in the Teatro. Las y lesbianas lo que necesitan es una buena acogida. You're a bunch of whores and lesbians. What you need is a good screw. This is what some of our critics would say about Teatro de las Chicanas. And even my closest friends would ask, what's a nice girl like you doing with them? But we were Chicanas, members of a new breed of Valentinas and Adelitas of the 1970s. We were young women with revolution brewing in our blood. That's right, men, ready to fight an injustice a la brava. We were the first generation of Chicanas who had gotten the opportunity to go to college. Away from home and the watchful eyes of our parents, we shed our cortex of shy and meek chavalas and found our identity. Chicanas! We came from traditional Mexican families. We grew up at a time when girls were expected to do girl things like make tortillas, cook, wash clothes, and clean house. Our upbringing typified every Chicana of our generation. That is, until we begin to break the mold. La Teatro de las Chicanas embodied las Chicanas' rebellion against the one-sided version of La Virgen de Guadalupe. Meek, submissive, eyes respectfully glued to the ground. Without clamor, we hope to get the other Guadalupe out into the streets and fighting for la causa. We wanted to get out the Guadalupe who not only felt our pain, but also stood up, unafraid, ready to speak her mind and stand her ground. This other Guadalupe felt strong because she was fighting for justice and the liberation of los de abajo. In our skits, we promoted her spirit, the one that galloped on horseback or jumped onto running vagones during the 1910 Mexican Revolution. But I gotta tell you, people either loved us or hated us. But we could care less. We had something to say and we were going to say it, no matter how we said it. Enough with being put down by the men. Enough with the Vietnam War. enough with racism. We knew that if we didn't speak out, we were going to reventar, yes, explode. There was a cry surging from the darkest corner of our soul, our almas, threatening to bust us open like watermelons dropped onto the pavement. Yes, the Teatro bonded us. We got so much energy from each other that some of us became almost inseparable, particularly when it was partying time. Yet, near dawn, when the party was about to break, you would find La Feliz in one of the rooms strumming a guitar and singing La Llorona.
Todos me dicen el negro, llorona, negro, pero cariñoso. Todos me dicen el negro, llorona, negro, pero cariñoso. Ayer maravilla fui, llorona, y ahora ni sombra soy. Ayer maravilla fui, llorona, y ahora ni sombra soy.
Once I heard this wistful song, I knew that the curtain was about to close on our night's performance. The sorrowful lament in her voice would draw us together like a magnet. No matter what I was doing or where I was at the time, once I heard the sound of her voice singing La Llorona, I would follow it, only to find the others there amidst the shadows of the room. I would look at my sisters. Before the world we stood, as fragile as dry leaves. Young women barely in our 20s. This was the other side of these bad, brave girls. Tears washing off the grime of old makeup, eroding away our mask of these bad girls. We would stand there in silence, listening, trying to shake off the memory of past heartaches and humiliation. But how do you erase the memory that your gender is the unwanted one? That because of your position in society, you have only been good for, you know what? I don't want to say it because there's children here. A slap on the face or as an animal of burden. Thank you. I'm going to introduce a little. We read, we studied, we put it together, we put our little skits together, and in this skits we tried to bring out a message of what was happening at that time. It was around this time that we wrote the skit E.T., and the movie E.T. was popular at that time, the movie by E.T. by Steven Spielberg. And there was also a lot of things happening in our community around the question of immigration. And so we wanted to put out the message to educate our community as to why people cross the border and what are the things that they suffer in doing so and what they face. So this is a little piece of one of our actos that is called E.T., and Yolanda and Felicitas are going to do it for you. Thank you.
America, América, yo me acuerdo de ti.
Chicles, please buy me some gum. Anyone wants to buy me gum? Por favor. Mi nombre es Enriqueta Tejeda. You can call me E.T. I am from the continent of South America, south of the Mexican border. In Latin America, the poor are not as heinous in the United States. As soon as you cross the border, poverty is vast and naked. You have the super rich who own the land and are protected by the government. There are foreign companies. Many of them are runaway shops from the United States. While they pay their workers a meager $6.75 an hour, they pay us South Americans only $1 a day. And even these factories are closing down. There are organized protests in Latin America against justice and poverty, against injustice and poverty. But those in power have smothered the sparks of revolution. And in spite of this repression, people like me will continue to struggle for a better life at whatever cost.
I forgot. Yo soy el coyote. For a price, I pick up the wet bags from the U.S. border and bring them on to the United States. For a higher price, I pick up these mojados, these alambres, these chuntaros, and the Mexican side, and I take them all the way up to the United States de America. And why? Because there is a border. So you see, I am not their enemy. These miserable fools need my services. Most of these people are escaping their miserable living squalor conditions. So, what do? I didn't create those conditions, but I take advantage of these people. Hey, chiquita, let me see you dance.
Me dicen that there's much work in the United States. I have a friend who works for a very rich family, and she tells me there's a family who needs a maid.
Quieta, there's a lot of chamba in the United States. And your services are much in demand.
No sé. I love my country and its beautiful vast valleys, the beautiful mountains, and the singing of the birds.
Quieta, it may be your country, but you don't own the land. There are very few selected people just run the whole show and they do what they want with it. And yes, it may be a beautiful country, but you know what? You live in the squalor of shanty towns.
Es cierto, but it is the love for my country that makes it so hard to migrate. How can I leave my brothers, my sisters, y mi madrecita que tanto quiero?
Your family and you have been stripped of your land, a land that is now all polluted and toxic like your mama. How can you talk about love when the factory has closed down, your mama's dying, your papa's disappeared, and you are just an extra mouth to feed?
Well, I have saved some money.
Yeah. Ay, quieta. Con este dinero, I can take you to a brighter, richer future, and I can rock your world. Come, we waste time. I will meet you across the border.
Ay, Dios mío, ayúdame, Virgencita.
Thank you for having us. My name is Yolanda Flores, and I'm an immigrant from Baja California. My family's from Ensenada, and I went into San Diego State University through the EOP program, the Educational Opportunity Program, where I met these beautiful women, and I joined Mecha and supported Teatro de las Chicanas as we continued our growth in every which way. And this evening, I would love to share the story of one of our carnalas in the teatro. She was the co-founder of Teatro de las Chicanas, along with Felicitas. Her name was Delia Ravelo Reyes, and she died to ovarian cancer in 2002, but she was able to share her story with us. She didn't get to see the book published, but you know, we have her in our heart. And the book was dedicated to her. And this is the dedication. Timeless warrior, for your love that touched our lives, for your heart's universal compassion, for your international humanitarianism, a global citizen, union member, and proud worker. Your spirit of light dances eternally in the depths of our abyss. Delia left us her story as a legacy on the Teatro de las Chicanas book. And what I want to share something as she struggled to leave home and attend college. She was born in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and moved to the town of National City, California as a child. She earned her bachelor's degree in liberal arts and a master's degree in literature from San Diego State. I met Delia in 1967 during our high school years in the small town of National City. That's where we're from. And I remember always seeing her smile. She was very, very friendly and always wrapped up with a rebozo. Delia never shared with anyone her personal situation at home or the tragic events that had happened in her life at a very young age. She lost her dad at a work accident and her mother to cancer at the age of 7. Before her mother passed away, she moved Delia and her siblings to National City, and she passed away shortly after that. Delia automatically became subject to the authority of her cruel and abusive uncle, and what was to become her biggest nightmare and challenge as she struggled from a very strict environment and her deep desire to learn and to go to college. Quote, as protection, I started to gain weight and adopted the most homely facade, which was greatly embellished by my grandmother's black rebozo. This shawl enshrouded my upper torso. My only protection was my brain, and I needed to become invisible and unobtrusive in the adult world. I honed and created my survival technique by kissing the ass of any adult who crossed my path. Consequently, they loved my impeccable manners. I didn't have the support, money, or means to go to college. There were a couple of teachers that took interest in me and arranged for a counselor to set me up on a college prep track so I could go to college and pass my entry exams. My survival tactics worked, but at the cost of playing a role. The price I had to pay was swallowing my pride and being my teacher's little Mexican peon throughout high school. My main goal was to attend college. Before my mother married, she had been a teacher in Zacatecas, Mexico. She instilled in me a love of learning and reading that remains to this day. My uncle would ridicule me if I said anything about going to college, but inside of me, I knew I would go. All my efforts came to fruition with the help of Lyndon B. Johnson's Great Society War on Poverty, and an indifferent counselor, and a few good and some condescending teachers. I was about to enter San Diego State University in the summer of 1970. My mother's family on both sides of the border didn't believe I should or would ever venture beyond their world of Mexican tradition, fatalistic Catholicism, and male supremacy. My uncle roared that I was not going to attend college or move into the college dorms. He was out to break me down in some way if I would let him. I knew his world and wanted out of it, and college was my ticket. Days before, in preparation and feeling great danger, I had arranged for a ride to the university dorms. I was raging on the inside, and in a supremely controlled act of disobedience, I packed a shabby suitcase with my meager belongings, including my beloved books. I remember waiting, standing outside the house on the sidewalk for my ride out of hell. My heart was pumping blood to every cell in my body. I could see the neighbors in our small, crowded community peering out through their windows. They knew my uncle had raised me since the death of my parents. They knew my uncle was an angry and determined man, and they knew they would witness a battle. But they never said a word. What the neighbors had not acknowledged or comprehended was that I also had anger and determination of my own. In a showdown scenario of a telenovela, my uncle came out to drag me back into the house, pulling my long black hair and every part he could grab, leaving his marks on me. Hairs were ripped off my head and caught between his clenched claws as I managed to push off and pull away with a rumpled torn shirt. I stood my ground, but the physical challenge was nothing compared to my mental resolve, my will, and my integrity. I didn't feel a thing of what he was doing. At that moment, nothing mattered. He became nothing. I had to leave or die. If I had to return to my community, it would be on my own terms and not someone else's. Nothing could stop me. My great passion was about being on my own, and education was my path to freedom, and I made it. As far as I was concerned, San Diego State University was my Harvard. A completely new universe. No longer beholden to adults in the barrio of Old Town National City, Sweetwater High School, or Tijuana, Mexico. I dove into my new freedom. As naive, afraid, and inexperienced as I was, my horizons expanded into rapture. I encountered revolution in every sense of the word. I certainly received an education in my pursuit of knowledge, but the learning process in the classroom could not rival what was taking place outside the classroom. I learned from classmates, workers on the picket line, and mothers who had lost their sons in the Vietnam War. Various national movements were reaching their apex. The first women's studies department in the nation had been founded at San Diego State. The anti-war movement had been inspired by Mario Savio at UC Berkeley, who spoke for freedom of speech and freedom of the press. I was intrigued by all the grassroots organizations, the Black Panthers, the Black Berets, the Brown Berets, that had been established in our student communities. I was bombarded by a plethora of happenings, options, and lifestyles. I had committed the ultimate rebellious act by coming to college and living as I pleased. Every secret whim had been fulfilled during those first 2 years of college. As I became involved in Teatro de las Chicanas, among those secrets was my desire to be an actor in a play, to perform on a stage, something like the Shakespearean literature that I had been exposed to in high school. What awaited me was more than I could ever imagine. Thank you for listening to our compañera story, Delia de Belo Reyes.
It's based on a true story of the miners in New Mexico who were fighting for better wages and working conditions. My name in this acto is Esperanza, and
and I have just been put in jail because there was an injunction put against the men for striking, otherwise they would lose their position. So the women in this time went out and went on strike for the men, but they were still put in jail. So I have spent about 3 days in jail, and I'm coming home. The children look a little bit more dirty than usual. The house is a mess. My husband wants to talk to me. The Women's Auxiliary has a meeting going, and it's very urgent that I attend because we have so much work to do in the strike. So I have the children are reading their books in their room, thank goodness. And now at time, it's quieted down. The children, like I said, they're pretty good. And I'm not gonna wait for my husband because now I guess it's his turn, and things have quieted down. I am just so tired and exhausted. I hope he hurries up. And oh, I guess I must have fallen asleep. Oh, the children, they put themselves to bed. Oh my goodness, I wonder what time it is. See the curtains? Oh, it's dark outside. Where is that man?
Porque ya no me quieres.
Ramon, can you please keep it down? The children are asleep, and earlier you wanted to talk?
Not anymore.
Can you not even bear the sight of me?
No, you don't care for me anymore, Esperanza. You don't love me.
Ramon, I do love you. I have been waiting here all evening and into the night for you. Now you wanted to talk, and I'm here to listen.
And then what? So you can go to the Women's Auxiliary meeting and then decide what I'm gonna do and what the other men are gonna do in the strike? No.
Ramon, why are you saying that? What are you doing?
I'm going hunting in the morning with the men, and I'm looking for my rifle. Have you seen it, woman?
Ramon, how can you go hunting in this crucial time in the struggle? We need you, Ramon, por favor.
It's useless. Can't you see the big picture?
What big picture?
The miners, as the miners are losing, we're getting weaker, and the owners of the mine are getting stronger. That's the big picture. And I'm gonna go down fighting.
Ramon, I do not want to go down fighting. I want to stand. I want to walk with dignity. And we are not getting weaker. We're getting stronger.
Mujer, those ideas have been put into your head by those new friends you're running around.
I like my friends and I respect my friends.
Well, I like things the old way. When I used to come, dinner was on the table, the children were clean, and you used to make handmade flour tortillas. Now what? I have to learn how to cook beans. I have to clean the kids. And on top of that, you want me to make tortillas.
Ramon, we cannot go back to the old way. You just want to keep me in my place. And you talk about the Anglos, the gringos that want to keep you in your place?
Cállate.
Ramon, you need me like I need you, and you cannot win this strike without me.
Te dije que te callaras.
That would be the ultimate act, Ramon, for you to hit me. Sleep where you may, but not with me.
Fine. I'm going hunting in the morning with the men so that I can feel like a real man, not like a woman.
Quiero ser libre, vivir mi vida con quien me quiera. Dios, dame fuerza, que estoy muriendo por irlo a buscar.
Paloma negra, ¿dónde andarás?
And she's going to talk about some bad experiences that Teatro de las Chicanas had, and something that we had to learn not to do again. So this was part of our upbringing and social awareness and learning from our experiences.
We were formally already recognized as Teatro de las Chicanas, and we had been invited to perform in the Los Angeles area. Most of us had shiny flowing hair, and we were all in jeans. We looked anywhere from a flower child to a militant. We didn't care about our GPAs or career goals. We were going over our theater lines, we were gossiping. From the back of the van, pulled out a bag with dry green grass with some rolled sticks. We were excited and somewhat nervous, so it was logical to relax in our jagged neurons. So the magic smoke was inhaled. We were giggling, laughing, and our van became a chariot floating amongst the traffic. I was limp, soft like jelly, bouncing to the jerks and stops and rolling with the curves as Peggy went past the slower cars. I felt all glowing, all knowing. We were liberated. We were invincible. Out of nowhere, we heard the blaring sirens and saw the blinding red lights of a black and white police car. Suddenly, we were stiff with fright, trapped in an undeniable high and going to jail. The panicked voices of Gloria and Teresa from the back of the van shrieked and said, "Let's eat the rest of the grass." This would lessen whatever penalty it was for possession of dough. My ration doubled because Peggy, the driver, couldn't eat the grass. So our cries intensified when when the police car in the back got in front of the van and another one got in the back of our van. Our joy, our chariot of joy was littered with all the mota thrown all over because we had been rationing. None of us, it wasn't fashionable to carry bottled water, so we were gagging, and this, was just flying out of our mouth. But the long arm was corralling us, and we were crying for our mothers and begging for forgiveness. By the third time, a third patrol car appeared with a fire truck. We were frantic and halfway passed out on dope and terror. And we noted the cars slowing down around a huge cloud of dark smoke. Then the stench hit us. It was coming from the burning bodies of people trapped in the car. So the cops were not pursuing us, but mentally, we were really shocked, extreme to extremes. The traffic slowed around, and then we were on our way again. When we got to the college, we got to the gym where we were going to be performing. So in a collective stupor, we got out of the van, took out our props that we were going to use, and where we were scheduled to perform, since we were a little bit late, everybody was real curious. The gym was full, and there was about at least 300 pairs of eyes just checking us out, and so the thing is, I couldn't feel my feet touching the ground, and I had to look down because I couldn't believe, that I couldn't feel them. But I didn't say anything to the rest of the group because I didn't want to get them worried. So we get there, we got all our props ready, and I turn around and I say, we're Teatro, blah, blah, and I'm looking at the members going, and I say, what's the matter? They didn't want to perform. And so I was really nervous, and I felt abandoned and neglected and whatnot. So one of our favorites, I thought about one of our favorite songs, which was an anti-war movement, and it's about a Cuban woman who's very formal, and even if you don't like it, she's very proud to be a Cuban, and she talks about Nixon and having his butt kicked in Cambodia and Vietnam. Anyway, so it starts, Cubanita soy, señores. I sing this. Cubanita muy formal. Cubanita siempre ha sido, aunque usted lo tome a mal. Mr. Nixon está triste, lo digo con disimulo. En Camboya y en Vietnam le están dando por el cubanita, señores. So this is what happened. They joined me, and we were able to all perform afterwards. But it took a song to break everybody into and keep our commitment. And of course, we were greatly applauded. And afterwards, one of the young women approached us. Of course, she was as young as we were, but she says, "You guys got to go to Hollywood." And we looked at each other and go like, "Man, we almost didn't make it." So we didn't say anything. But what was really sad, and I think this happened in a lot of campuses and in a lot of in the movement, there was a great infiltration of drugs, and the Vato Loco was very glamorized along with the use of drugs. So what happens is that this became very destructive, because it caused like very spontaneous, valiant, short-lived action. Oh yeah, let's do this. But then that was it. Nothing else. They never wanted. The people that were like heavy into drugs, they didn't want to go door to door campaigning. They didn't want to collect signatures. They didn't want to be on the picket lines. I mean, they just want to be brave, strong people for about 2 seconds, and that was it. Also, the relationships between lovers increased. It was abusive. It became abusive, more abusive. And we had a lack of continuity in our community projects. Also, there was a decrease of moral obligation to the labor struggle and human rights. And as a student of life, because we still are students of life, there was an outright neglect in the search for knowledge, the search for understanding, and the search for truth. So from then on, I focused in on the women in Teatro and around the Teatro, and we didn't do dope when we performed anymore. Thank you.
Infamous sport. Am I pronouncing it right? Infamous. Getting correct in my English. Infamous sport. And this was an actor that we wrote as a plea to our compañeros to join in the fight, to be in the fight, and to treat us as equal partners, equal compañeros in the struggle. And so many years later, when we were writing the book, and I'm not going to give away the punchline in the skit, but many years later, I was talking to my husband, and I was saying, we wrote that skit, and we were really talking to you guys and saying, let's fight for equality, and blah, blah, blah. And we never got a good reception from you guys. What is it? And he says, well, maybe it was the form you said it. So we're gonna do bronca right now. Bronca, 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 bronca,
¡Bronca! ¿Por qué solo me quieres de cocinera? ¿Porque soy mujer? Why is it that when it comes to preparing the meals, automatically men look at me? They see me stuck to pots, pans, and dishes. Carnales, preparing the meals is the joy for both men and women. Come on, step up to the plate and let's divide the work equally. Bronca!
bronca, 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 bronca.
Why is it that when notes need to be taken, men look at me. Women can be more than secretaries. And you can also share the task of being a secretary. Taking notes is a beginning of writing. We all need to expand our writing skills. So carnales, don't think that women are just secretaries. Come on, chip in, take on the load yourselves and help out. Bronca!
¡Bronca! 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 ¿Por qué solo me quieres para cuidar niños? ¿Porque soy mujer? Why is it that when it comes to raising our children, you look at me to change diapers, to raise them? ¿Porque soy mujer? Carnales, brothers, enjoy raising our children and step up to the task. Bronca!
Bronca! Bronca! Bronca! Bronca! Why is it that when there's a need for speakers, men look at each other, but they don't look at me? Carnales, everyone has a great need to express and voice who they are and their analysis and their views. Listen to a woman's words of wisdom and come on, let the woman speak up. Bronca!
Bronca! Bronca! Bronca! Brothers and sisters, it's time that we get rid of that idea, the idea of machismo, that idea that says that men are superior than women. That's a lie. Compañeros y compañeras, ya es tiempo de deshacernos de esa idea del machismo que dice que el hombre es superior a la mujer. ¡Mentira! ¡Bronca! ¡Bronca! ¡Bronca!
¡Bronca!
Yo quiero que a mí me entierren como revolucionario. Yo quiero que a mí me entierren como revolucionaria, envuelta en bandera roja y con mi fusil al lado. Envuelta en bandera roja y con mi fusil al lado. Fusil is a weapon, and our weapon as students and our weapon today is education. The Teatro is made up of women from all walks of life. Amongst us are nurses, teachers, union organizers, court interpreters, hotel managers, union, and in so many walks. And one of the things that keeps us together as a unit is that when we greet each other, it's like we've never left each other, because one of the three things that we always support is that we all stand for peace, reason, and compassion. And we thank you so much for being with us tonight. Thank you.
As I was listening to your very powerful performances, I was thinking that there is this debate, this constant search for identity that we have, and we're constantly debating whether we are Mexican Americans, American Mexicans, Chicanos, Mexicanos. But in reality, we all are in a way Chicanos, because being Chicano, being Chicana is a social-cultural, social-political experience in this country. And you remind us very, very clearly of the fact that you fought, and this spirit keeps alive today, because you fought those struggles that did not take place in a faraway land, but right here within our own soil and within our own souls. So thank you so much for that. We only have, oh yeah, my name. My name is Ricardo Castro Salazar. I am a faculty member in political science and history in Northwest Campus, so I knew some of what you were talking about. But we have like 15 minutes for questions, maybe a little bit more because we are ahead of time, right? Can we do that? Because you have so many interesting things to say, and I'm sure you want to, no nos vayan a echar bronca nomás, pero we probably want to do some Q&As. Is there someone with a mic, or should I?
Oh, wait, this mic is one. Oh, for there.
Okay, well, we're ready for your questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. Today, okay, we're ready for your questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. Today, Teatro de las Chicanas creates dialogue on issues of women's equality, human rights, and global responsibility. So if we have anything that you would like to address, the three of us are here.
Just raise your hand, the mic will come around.
Hello, right here, one.
So I heard that you guys were talking about feminism. How do you guys think that it has changed or, evolved since 1970s, and how do you think it still exists today?
To repeat it, please, how do you think feminism has changed us from?
Changed or evolved from the 70s to today?
Well, personally, at my end, I don't, I've been a feminist since I was very young, and I think part of that came from my experience as a child, and just witnessing my father abusing my mother, pretty much physical abuse. And so when I became, socially and consciously aware, politically aware of our rights as women, I really believe that you still have that to date. And we all, as women, bond. We bond in our cause, to have the same equalities as men. So I'm not really sure specifically what you mean. Like, I know my daughter, I taught her to be very independent, and it's through this. At the same time, she exercises an interdependence, okay, between our family and the community. So, do you guys want to?
Yes, I think that one of the ways that I have evolved from way back then is that I have come to understand that men are considered a sissy. If he doesn't act like a macho in front of other machos, they're ridiculed. If a man decides to love another man, they are condemned. And we have come to realize that men are oppressed too. And that where is all of this coming from? And I think Laura tries to point out in her saying that male supremacy is a tool of the oppressor.
I just want to speak personally first, because I was one of those Chicanas that was, I believe, very militant for women's rights. And to the point, I've been married since I've been 19, and my husband was 18, so we've been together since. We're still together. I have 2 sons. And so I carried that fight into my family, and I think it was very difficult for my husband to live with me for the first few years, because I took it as a personal thing. And so it is a personal, fighting for your rights. It's personal, but you gotta look at more at the system of how the system is oppressing a people, whether it be because of their ethnicity or their gender, or because they belong to a different class. And I think through the years I've learned that oppression exists as workers, oppression exists as, which is women and men, and oppression exists and exploitation too, both for men and women, and that it's the need to change a system that oppresses a people, whether because of their gender or their ethnicity or class, needs to be changed. We need to question it and try to make change. So it's been 40 years, so I have evolved to understand more of the big picture, like I was telling Esperanza.
We call Unidos, and we did a workshop on gender equality. And one of the students brought up one issue that we didn't cover was like, what are some solutions to like solving this the issue to having gender equality? Because sometimes as males, like as a man, I haven't recognized that, and I've overstepped my boundaries, and what would be advice you would give to males to recognize this issue, and how could they contribute and kind of help fix the solution like on their part?
I think the main thing is to recognize it. And I mean, once you acknowledge that there is that gender inequality, you both of you would try to work together through dialogue. And I don't know what else you want to say about that. But acknowledging and knowing that there is inequality, it's a big step.
We just had we call him a green brother because we relate him to the earth, Mother Earth. And Laura had an experience with him when we were very young. And he always saw us as powerful women, that women also are powerful. So one time he asked Laura, what do you think about the movie we saw?
Well, I was 17 and no one had asked me what I thought. No one had ever asked me what was my opinion on anything. And I didn't have an answer. So if you want equality, you fight for equality, then you learn, you educate yourself around the issues. And not just, if someone's asking you what do you think and you say, I don't know, then that's not why you want that liberation to say, I don't know. So we're talking about really getting educated about the issues that affect all of us, and to be able to give our opinions in an educated way. And I don't mean like formal education, but just be aware of what's going on. I think if we take the struggle for women's equality, narrow it down, and I am not fighting against men. I mean, I want men in my world. I want my husband in my world, my father, my sons. So we're talking about equality, being able to recognize that there is, you both are equal, you both are fighting for the same things, and that we have learned some very bad things, and that's what we talk about ideology. We have an ideology that has been put into our heads from century to century to century, that women have no value. And we gotta change that. And the way we change it is by talking about it, and talking about it in a very frank way, but without pointing the fingers of you men and you women and all of that. Because if we do that, we have lost the battle. The other thing that I think is that just because I want my rights, it doesn't mean that I want to take away your rights. And so it's nothing to take away from another, person or another group. It's that we all should have these rights. We should all enjoy those rights and be respected as human beings. But let's not narrow the dialogue to men and women and you this and you that, because that's not what it is.
I think another factor that's very strong in our culture, our traditions, is religions. And when you start feminists, so it's a woman without faith. Anyone in the times of the Dark Ages, the feudal system, if a woman was called the feminine, she was burned alive. and torture. Joan of Arc was one of these, came to be one of these people, these victims that were burned. So sometimes you have to question religion, you have to question education, you have to question the commercials, that are going on, the way they show women with their bodies to sell a car. I mean, just like, pointing out to your younger children, this is not right, because it degrades you down to become an object as a human being. And constantly, the education is so important. You just don't learn it in a classroom. You learn it as a student of life. You do your research, you read, you teach your children how to read, how to inform themselves. Right now, in the medical field, women go to the doctor a lot more than men. So when a doctor prescribes medicine, find out what the side effects are. What kind of alternative medicine is there besides just putting chemicals and pumping chemicals into our bodies? If your children are depressed or your partner is depressed, how can you find a way to naturally get this person out of depression and talk about it? Because we're becoming so dependent on chemicals, legal medicine, what's called legal medicine, and then on the outside we have illegal medicine or drugs. So this is, and not only are our bodies being poisoned, but the earth is being poisoned with herbicides, insecticides, and just, why can't we work where things are naturally taken care of? Is there natural insecticides? Is there a better way where we don't cause so much pollution that it's harming our children in the future? With so much pollution, what's going to happen to our children? If we're going to become monsters, if we're just getting rid of the possibility of life being able to exist, the world is going to go on. But how are our children going to survive this? And as parents, we have to be educated. What is happening in the schools? What is happening in the medical field? What is happening in politics? Our politicians should respond and be responsible for their actions. Why do we allow politicians to continue robbing and then disrespecting women in public? And this is something that we as humans, as a community, need to start saying, no, this is not right. And if you don't do the job right, we're paying you with our taxes. It's a public service. Step down, por favor. Let somebody who is going to fight for our rights, who is going to make our communities more safer, give our children a better future, take position of these political jobs, these administrative jobs. Because we do pay, we put out the money with our labor, we put out the money with our sweat. And so I think questioning every day what is around us and what finding solutions to how we can better our lives with each other, in our families, in our community, in the nation, is one of the ways to deal with this machismo, because it's like Laura says, it's a tool of the oppressor. As long as we're divided, we're not going to go nowhere. We have to be united.
Sorry, it's going to be like a two-part question today, but the question should be easy to answer. I wanted to ask you, what is your guys' organization doing to educate, where, let's say, some families aren't educated, but you want to get the message to the next generation? What kind of activities or ways are you reaching out to those types of families?
We're not really we're not an organization. We are a group of.
Or your movement?
Yeah. Just wanted to clarify that. I live in Chicago. She lives in California. She lives here in Yuma. But one of the things that we learned from our participation in the Chicana movement, and I do want to say that our participation in society has been stopped with us, with the Chicana movement. We have continued working with our communities, whether it be, in whatever we have, we can, and we're active. The other thing, like I publish, I don't publish, I publish a bilingual publication that talks about issues that are affecting the communities, such as lack of jobs, unemployment, politicians. You know, we just had the Midwest elections in the state of Illinois. We're battling right now because the Republican won, supposedly, so we're not sure yet because they're counting the absentee ballots. But he's the first Republican in 100 years. So there needs to be a lot of education with, you know, and I don't mean formal education, but we do need to talk about the issues, what's the solution, how we can solve, and so I do it through the means of a bilingual publication. I know Felicitas is very active in her community with some local politicians that tend to, you know, that at least are saying that they're going to represent the rights of that community. I have been very active with the issue of immigration. So like I said, and I also, just about a month ago, there was a national march in Ferguson, Missouri, and I went and attended that march. One of the main reasons I went is because I mean, I'm interested. The fight against police brutality is very important. It's like an epidemic that's growing around the country. So it's something that, you know, I'm keeping an eye on. I do have grandchildren and teenagers and all of that. But I also wanted to express in my participation in the march that it's not a black issue, that it's an issue that affects the community, and that community is black, white, and Latino. And so I was not the only Latina. There were a couple of Chicanas. I was telling Felicitas with their sign from Chicago saying Chicana stands with the Ferguson community. So we go and speak and write and talk and just whatever we can to pass on what we've learned from the 1970s, but also to talk about, start a dialogue about what's happening today. What are the issues and what can be done? And I do encourage to pick up the publication. I don't know where it is. Yeah, and you know, and just check it out.
Okay, I have one last part of that question, Kate. How do you get people to be involved in your cause? Like, how do you get members? How did you guys? I know you guys all knew each other or met each other somewhere along the line from the 70s to date. So how do you get newer members, younger members, to address the issues that they're facing? Because I'm sure they're different than the ones you were facing.
Personally, I get involved with the community college where I'm from in El Valle de Coachella. And for example, we had Dia de los Muertos. You know, you come in contact with the teachers and the students. And then also for Hispanic week, for example, I had the veteranas de los farm workers that were in the struggle with Cesar Chavez. And I had, you know, I got them to be on a panel where they got paid $50, you know, but esas señoras, really fighters and a little bit older than I am, and amazing history of, you know, women that have been jailed, and not only were they out in the front lines fighting for better rights, but they, in the home, their husbands didn't want them to get involved. So sometimes their husbands would be in there, would abuse them. Pero right now, one of the things that I'm really interested in is I put a letter to the Board of Trustees, and I'm questioning, why don't we have more science classes where our children can start studying how to combat the toxicity and the pollution in our valle? It is just very bad. Why aren't our people becoming aware of science so that we can use the science to neutralize, to detoxify, to start healing ourselves? Get education in there that's gonna be worth everybody's life. And I'm not just talking about brown people, I'm talking about everybody, the whole planet. So this is like a demand, you know, more education, and our children need to be more educated. And not only that, but I think education should be a right. And why are we paying so much money for education and they're throwing all this money away in wars? just throwing it away.
Thank you so much for these very powerful words. You remind us that education is in fact so powerful that it has the power to question the educational system that we are part of. But thank you so much for being here. Let me, a couple of very quick announcements. The book we were talking about is out here for $8, and then you get a signature. And the cleaning committee, please remain in the room. Thank you so much, Mike Lopez, Dr. James Hernandez, and Professor Bardo Padilla for their efforts to bring you here. This has been indeed very educational. Thank you so much.